Preparing to stream live. All I see is black. There we go. Hello, Facebook Live. Welcome to East Liberty Park Community Organization's June 22nd, 2003 Community Council meeting. We're happy to have you. We're just going to get the meeting started by letting individuals into the Zoom. Welcome, Detective Follows. Can you hear us okay?
Yep, just had to get my audio going.
Okay, great. We're just getting started. I'm going to let other people into the Zoom meeting. Okay, we already said hello to everyone on Facebook Live, but we're going to take a second to say hello to everyone who just joined the Zoom meeting. My name is Christina Robb, and I'm the chair of the East Liberty Park Community Organization. We refer to us as ELPCO. In the room tonight, I have multiple board members. I have Alicia Cunningham, who represents our West Emerson neighborhood. I have Jeanette, who is our secretary. And I have Marnie Chandler, who represents our historic Gilmer Park neighborhood. And I have Alan Crittenden, who is a board member nominee. I have Amy Albo, who has also been nominated to serve a position on our board. And I have our presenters, who we will introduce in just a little bit. Jeanette, I always forget to say your last name. So Jeanette Young is our secretary, and I apologize for that.
Oh,
Okay, so we're gonna jump right into our opening and introductions. Usually the Salt Lake City Fire Department is up first. Of course, we only get them when there's not something more important happening in the city. So I will warn you in advance that if they do end up coming up the stairs at any time, we'll stop what we're doing and just go ahead and let them have the floor. So I'm going to move right into our Salt Lake City Police Department presentation with Detective Sam Follows. I want to start out by saying thank you to Detective Follows and the rest of the Salt Lake City Police Department who hosted a Coffee with a Cop with us this morning at Red Moose Cafe in our West Emerson neighborhood. It was an incredible event. In 5 minutes, I learned more about people's concerns in East Liberty Park than I have over the 6 months that I've been chair. So thank you, Detective Follows, and take it away.
All righty. Well, thank you for having me here with you all tonight. Yes, our Coffee with a Cop was great. It was good to see some of our residents out there and get to meet some people. Just FYI, we do those throughout the city at least once a month generally. So if you keep an eye on the PD's Facebook page or our Twitter, they usually announce those. And if you know, it's something you want to do in your neighborhood or something somewhere close to your house, let me know and I can reach out to our outreach and get that set up. So for this month's meeting, me and Christina spoke about doing a 6-month comparison for the crime stats for the area to kind of just get an idea of how they're looking for the year to date and see kind of where we're at. So I pulled those and we'll kind of go over some of the highlights.
Okay, let me make sure we're not seeing your screen. So let me make sure I'm adequately sharing. Okay. I have given you the shared screen on the OWL. So are you able to?
I don't really have a screen to share. I apologize.
Okay.
I didn't create like a graphic.
Oh, that's okay. That's fine.
Just going to kind of go over them.
Uh-huh.
That's okay. And I could probably create a graphic and email it over to you that you could put out in the Facebook page if you'd like.
You know, that's really kind of you to offer, but We are actually going to make a graphic that we're going to be updating. So we won't put you to that task. We'll just do it ourselves based on the information you give us, if that's okay.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Righty. And then also, sorry, before I get going on that, I'm just going to throw up, like I always do in the chat for anybody online, just some helpful links, some helpful reminders, and then my contact information. So, so just looking at the last 6 months of data. So again, when we do these community council meetings, we pull all the data from every part 1 and part 2 crime that's reported to us. That these are cases reported to us that could be anything from like an aggravated assault, a homicide, to like theft, a curfew violation, DUI, things like that. So there's a link to our stats page that you can kind of see all the different crime types, and you can kind of play with the crime stats in your neighborhood. So that's where I get all my data from, and that's where the city tracks. So for the month, we'll go back to, technically it's December, I guess, for the last 6 months, because I can only go a month behind. We don't have June stats yet because the month's not over. So, but looking at from December to May, so December we had 24 total part 1 and part 2 crimes reported. In January, that number went up a little bit to 39. And then February kind of went back down to 28. And then we saw a larger spike in March with 47 crimes reported. April, we went back down to 26. And then for the month of May, we had a total of 24 different crime stats reported to us. So it's kind of interesting to see. It's, you know, on average, it's probably around 30 crimes a month or so that are reported. Once in a while, we kind of see those spikes, and that can happen. Generally, we start to see spikes, and we probably will see this in the summertime. So when we go over our next 6 months, we'll probably see that as an increase. But some of the things that stood out in looking over the crime stats for the neighborhood over the last 6 months. So for the grand totals, we had the biggest one we had was theft, and we had 51 of those reported over the last 6 months. Then we had other assaults, which are basically simple assaults. There were 15 of those. And, or I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you, there's 188 total reported over the last 6 months. 51 thefts were the largest number we saw. And then other assaults had 15. Then we had fraud at 12. Family offenses, those are basically domestic violence type cases. There was 12 of those. And then there was 11 motor vehicle thefts. So a lot of our crime statistics that we see in the ELPCO neighborhood are kind of property related. And so obviously that could be due to like a lot of different factors. So one thing I do talk about each month, and I just like to harp on it, is just making sure we're doing everything we can to not give an opportunity. So most of these crimes that happen are crimes of opportunity. In fact, most recently in my other neighborhoods on the east side, I've gotten a few, well, not a few, I've gotten quite a few reports of people on cameras going around like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, checking people's garage doors, checking their car doors and things like that. And so again, as it starts to warm up and stuff, we kind of see that stuff start to uptick in the neighborhood. So just make sure, you're locking your doors at night. Make sure you keep all your lights on. For me, my biggest suggestion is to have lights that are on all the time. But if you don't have that option, floodlights are okay that are motion activated. But if your lights are on all the time, it just kind of helps to mitigate. Recently, I went through a training for crime prevention through environmental design. It's called CEPTED, and some people may be familiar with that term. But essentially what we were taught is that lighting is the #1 way to help prevent property crimes. And so, when we go to businesses and we do a CEPTED review, one of the first things I start looking for is like, how much lighting do they have outside, and how much, like, does it light up the area constantly? Is it lighting it up really well? All those things are proven to help. So Same goes for us in our homes. Turn your lights on at night, leave them on. I I know like a lot of my neighbors, for whatever reason, they don't turn their lights on at night. I'm not sure why, but I always have my lights on all night. It's just a great idea. And then, if someone's trolling for for a target to look at to steal something, hopefully and most likely, if they see your house with all the lights on, they'll go to somewhere else that doesn't have lights on, that's dark. Obviously when people commit crimes, they want to do it in the dark. So definitely a good way to help mitigate that is lighting. And the second best thing is to just kind of, like I said, take away the opportunities. Try not to leave wallets or purses or keys or anything like that in vehicles, or extra keys. Throughout the winter, we kind of had that happen quite a bit with like extra key fobs being left in vehicles. I think that's why we kind of see the motor vehicle theft go up. Like in January, there was 5. There's 3 in April. So we kind of see in the cooler months, the motor vehicle thefts tend to go up. This year we had a ton with extra fobs that were being left in vehicles, and then they were breaking in and then finding the fob. And again, so it was like an opportunity, right? They didn't necessarily know it was in there, but they broke into the car, found the fob, and then took the car. So definitely anything we can do to take all those things out of the vehicle. Family offenses are really hard for us to kind of tap down on. It's something that's unfortunately happens, right, in the first place. But if you know someone who's struggling, you suspect someone is being abused or something like that, there's a hotline I put in the chat that you can reach out to, that they can give you resources or give you ideas on how to help people. There's also our website. You can get a hold of our victim advocates and talk to them about it as well. Or if you are someone who's a victim of abuse but you don't feel comfortable necessarily wanting to report it right away, you can talk to our victim advocates at a minimum. So that's something that we offer as a police department, a service that we offer. So, and then just looking at the other statistics, we had like 8 burglaries total in the 6-month period. That's not too bad, actually. A burglary is basically a theft inside of a structure, stealing from inside of some kind of a structure like a garage, a shed, a house, or a building. And there were 14 vandalisms, so some kind of destruction of property of some kind. So also kind of a higher number. On the vandalism, if you're seeing graffiti, kind of falls under that. Our SLC mobile app, you can report it on there, or you can just call the city and report the graffiti. The city is really, really good about coming out and cleaning up graffiti like really quick. Sometimes they can do it in the same day, but generally they'll do it within 24 hours. So if you see graffiti, take a picture of it first, get it reported, because our gang unit will get that information. They'll look at that intel, see like if it is gang related, and if so, it kind of helps them get an idea of what's going on in the neighborhood when it comes to like gangs and things like that. So if you're seeing graffiti, take a picture. You can report it online, or you can report it just to an officer in general, and then then the graffiti team can come out and clean that up. So other than that, I think that's most of what I have to present. Does anybody have any questions or anything that I can clarify, or any other stats they'd like to hear about?
Anyone from the room have questions? Does anybody online have any questions? If so, just go ahead and raise your hand or unmute yourself. Okay, I actually have a couple of things to follow up with you, Detective Follows, from listening to, I had the pleasure of speaking to 5 different officers today, all with lots of different information. And a couple of things really hit home to me. Was that a lot of concerns right now have to do with speeding and jaywalking. People feel like they are going to hurt somebody, and they won't be able to stop it because people are going so fast, or people are stepping out in front of them and things like this. Even when they're maintaining a slower speed, that it would generally be safe. Do you have any comments on how we as a community council can maybe help people with these questions?
Yeah, like jaywalking, definitely, especially kind of like by the Liberty Park area and all that. is definitely a problem for sure.
The
And
whale.
yeah, the way, yeah, ninth, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I would say as the driver, obviously, just try and be as alert as you possibly can, be looking like, sometimes we tend to only look like right in front of our car when we're driving, when we kind of like zone out a little bit, which like, I know we shouldn't do that, but we all kind of tend to do it sometimes. Right. And so try and like keep your head up and looking on the horizon as you're driving. Like when I ride my motorcycle, I'm usually looking like a mile or two down the road, so when cars pull out in front of me, I don't die. So try and do that. That's the first thing that can help. But then when it comes to the jaywalkers themselves, if there's an area where it's really chronic and it's happening like just a ton, like maybe like at the well, things like that, that would be a good opportunity to reach out to me, and I can reach out to like our motor unit, and maybe or I can reach out to maybe our bike unit or someone like that, and we can do some kind of an operation where we look just for people who are jaywalking all the time, and maybe we don't necessarily go out and cite or arrest, but maybe we just stop people and give them some information about why it's so dangerous to jaywalk, or maybe they do get a citation, depending on if we see them do it right in front of us, things like that. So we can work on something like that too, if it is an area where it's just really chronic, where it's just happening a lot. So reach out to me or reach out to Christina, and she can reach out to me, and we can set something up like that for sure.
Right. Okay, so thank you for that. I think that's really helpful, because I do think that, obviously we just need to do our best.
Sure.
But there is those places where it's so crowded and there's so much happening and people are just walking out behind cars. 9th and 9th, in the business district, which is getting really bad right now, that none of us wants to hurt anyone ever. So
Sure.
we'll put that on our Facebook. We'll share that information. The other question that I had from today is really to advocate for the police officers that were there. I heard a lot of complaints for folks that were having problems with like dogs off leashes and things that were really in the purview of the police officers, no matter how much they do want to help. So we do have one 911 line that we call into, and then hopefully the dispatch can help send us in the right direction. And we need to advocate for ourselves when we do that. Hey, maybe not the police, maybe the animal control folks, or what we need. But I think I just want to follow up on what Detective Follows told us last week, very specifically, that it's always good for us to follow up if we call the police and it's important. Just to know that it's been taken care of and that it was logged into the comp stats, because it's very much a numbers game, to be able to isolate problem areas or to help them target something that's maybe a more systemic or bigger picture. So thanks, Detective Follows. That was very helpful. Does anyone else have something they'd like to just add to the meeting?
I think offering up the non-emergency line of call, right?
Mhm.
Besides the 911 line,
Yeah.
there's the 799-3000 that is available for non-emergency sort of calls.
Yeah.
They're very helpful. And you can contribute to that crime stat without actually qualifying it as a direct emergency.
Yeah, good point, David. And also to follow up, because Detective Follows gave us a big presentation on this last week. The 799 number is really helpful, but it's also very helpful to report anything online if it's something that's more of a property crime that you don't feel like an officer responding is really going to help. But just to make sure that it gets into the comp stats. And correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Yes. Yep. So really there's 3 ways to get like the crime stats reported in the neighborhood. Either if it's an emergency, call 911. If it's not an emergency, the 799-3000 is a great number. And then just so you guys know, those are actually the exact same people answer both lines. It's not like you get a different dispatcher for one or the other. It's just obviously, as we all know, like the 911 is prioritized compared to the 3000. So yeah, definitely if it's not an emergency, don't call the 911, but you're still going to get, the same person answering. It'll just might take a second longer. But then yes, absolutely. The online reporting is a really good way. So there's a few things with that. The main thing is that there's no like follow-up, like no known suspect info, meaning you may have video of the suspect, but you just have no idea who it is, you know, or where they could possibly have gone. That's one thing we don't want to have any kind of suspect information that's follow-up, like that's we could follow up on. And then there's a list of specific ones, but yeah, theft is like a really good one where you can just go online, do a quick little online report, and it'll still, when I pull the stats and everything, it'll still count towards like as a theft in the neighborhood. So I definitely think one of the biggest issues we have is accurate reporting of crimes in our neighborhoods, you know, and so I mean, I don't want to see crime stats go up, but I also want to see like an accurate picture, regardless of what that means, you know, so that way we can start working on what's really happening. So so if you are having little things like you wake up and, you know, your bike was stolen from the front yard or something, or your kid's bike was stolen from the front yard or something simple, where you're just like, it's not worth my time to call the police. I completely get that, because I wouldn't want to sit around, you know, waiting for a cop to call me or to show up. But that's one where you could just quickly go online, do a quick little 5-10 minute online report, and call it good. You know, you don't have to, there's really nothing else that has to be done that's super special. So they should be fairly easy. I've never personally used the online reporting, but from what I understand, it's fairly easy to use, should be pretty simple. But it still helps me in my job when I have to like direct resources and, you know, pull statistics and things like that. So for sure. Absolutely.
How do we get to that online?
Yeah, great question. So I have put a link in the chat that goes directly to it, but if you just go to slcpd.com, like Salt Lake City Police Department.com, it's a big old blue button right at the very top that says click here to file online report. So on our front web page, that's the first thing you'll see. But if you look in the chat, pull it up here.
Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah, file online report. You just click that link and it'll take you right to it as well. So Christina, if you wanted to maybe publish the link on your guys' website or something like that, or on the Facebook page, that would be awesome too.
Yep, we'll do that. We try and follow up after the meetings with more information. But just so you know, we also take the clips of these meetings here, and then, you know, the recordings of these meetings, and we send them to folks who are worried or concerned. So that way they don't have to trust me, you know, as just a citizen. They can actually hear it right from, you know, an officer's mouth, which is really more comforting to people, I think.
Yeah, I mean, anybody can reach out to me anytime. Like, I'm pretty responsive.
Great.
So
Great. Okay, well, thank you, Detective Follows. Hopefully you get a little rest now. You've been going hard all day, so.
It's been a long day.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. You guys have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, we have Josh from the mayor's office up next, but he often has to do double time at the Fair Park meetings, so he's not quite with us yet, it looks like. So we're going to move on to Jordan King, who we introduced to the group earlier, but I think of him as the 900 South reconstruction guru. He's our point person. There is quite a team that they've assembled to help us out at different levels, but we're going to hear from Jordan tonight. So.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm just gonna share my screen. Just so that there's something to look at besides my face while I talk. And so just let me know when that pops up.
It says you were viewing, but it's just kind of a black screen. So there we go now.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
Great. Well, like Christina said, my name is Jordan King. I am a consultant. I've been hired by the city to be the point person for outreach in regards to the 900 South Reconstruction Project. There is a handful of others on my team who've been hired by the city as well, or work directly for me, who have been helping with this project throughout. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with Bill Knowles. Bill is wonderful. He's our main point of contact for businesses directly as it impacts them during construction. My role is to talk through actual impacts to the community with the construction itself. So that includes residents, directly impacted businesses. I help answer hotline phone calls. We try to answer those live if someone calls our hotline. We respond to the emails that come in with questions. We come to these meetings when we're asked, and I get to meet with Christina and get her up to date on everything. So what I've got up on the screen right now is talking a little bit about the construction that's actually happening right now in the area, which is between 700 East and Windsor. I have a dear spot in my heart for this area. Until I was married, I lived on Windsor. And so I drive past that house a lot because I miss it quite a bit. But right now, if you've driven on 900 South, you know that we're actively working in that area. So they're excavating right now in preparation to install the new 9-line trail. This is a continuation and a connection point for other trail systems in the city. We've got the trail already starting on 900 West. Is where this project kind of picked it up, and it's paved for a substantial part of 900 South, but eventually it will go and continue all the way to Lincoln as part of this project. So we're excited to have that be part of that. We've also started some electrical work. Because of that, they'll be moving where the street lights are. So you'll see some of that happening, additional utility work, things that are potentially in the way for the excavation are happening right now. And then also preparing for where the roadway will be slightly moved and adjusted as part of the project. So all of those things are kind of happening right now. As far as upcoming work from 7th to Windsor is they'll be installing the new curb and gutter, new sidewalk area, new 9-line trail. This is all on the south side as of right now. And then they'll be working on repaving the roadway. The work in that area should be substantially complete. And when we say that, it means it's usable. They're not doing any major impacts in the area, but there might be still some touch-up work that needs to be done. The plan is to be substantially complete from 7th to Windsor by the end of July. So at that point, things like new signs, maybe some roadway striping, landscaping for sure, that all still will take place after the end of July. But that's when the substantial work will be done, the things that are the most impactful. At that point, they'll have sidewalks and roadway and all of that open in that area. Question, or is it okay if I open up for questions? As
Oh,
we go?
no, absolutely. Whatever works.
I
for
figure
you.
I want to talk the next from Windsor to Lincoln, so
Okay.
the ninth intersection next. So before I do that, I just wanted to see if there were any questions about this particular area.
And I don't see any hands raised online. So
Okay. Cool.
anyone have questions?
Great. So from Windsor to Lincoln, which of course includes the 9th and 9th intersection, which is where I think we'll get the most questions here. In order to reconstruct that intersection, they will be closing access to it. This is a 5 to 6 week process at the worst, a 4-week process at the best. They're planning to start doing all of the demolition and the work east of Windsor, including that intersection at the very end of July when they wrap up that first section. And they're planning to be done with it by the end of August. So right now that's their timeline schedule. They've got it scheduled for 5 weeks. They're hoping to be done in 4, and it might continue to 6. But the end of August is the target date for that right now. There have been several things that we have done. We've tried to keep the website with information updated. We send a weekly email with active work that's happening as part of this project out. So you can sign up for those email updates if you don't have them already. And as we get closer to that actual work, in the next 3 weeks, we'll start talking specifically, as we know from the contractor, what their specific plans are, when that closure will happen. We're going to be doing a turnaround, so you can travel eastbound on 900 South, almost all the way to the intersection. At 800 will be the preferred turnaround point, but they'll have like a local traffic only, kind of all the way up almost to 900 as soon as they can. There will be some demo and other work that will impede them doing that. But the plan is to be able to come up almost all the way to the intersection and then be able to turn around. So access is to those businesses on both sides of the road. we're hoping to be able to get close to them as possible, as much of the time as possible. Those are some things we've talked about. We'll be including like business access signs that have names of businesses. So people know, even if it says a road closed sign, local traffic only, will have a business, access for these businesses are this way. So people will understand that they can still get to businesses. Yes.
Or is there any planned work on the whale?
We're not
roundabout?
We're not going as far east as the well. Our stop off point is Lincoln, which is I think it's like 945 east is the official.
Okay.
Yes.
So you missed our last business meeting in which Leah and I looked at the maps and we
Yes.
did clarify that it goes just a little bit past Lincoln
That's
through
true.
the alley. So
Yes.
those people were a little worried. But,
Yes, thank you for that clarification. We say Lincoln, but because it's a really good landmark, but it does actually go just slightly past Lincoln. But no, definitely not to the well. So we won't be going quite that far east. Now, there is a construction project. It's a simple mill and overlay where they take off the top layer of asphalt and put down a new layer along 11. That's getting ready to begin. I don't have all the details on that, but as soon as I do, I will include information about that project as part of our weekly email update, as well as how to get more information and who to contact for that. So when that project begins happening, we'll be able to share more information about it.
Jordan, is that different than the 1100 East reconstruction, the project that you're talking about now? Because they're going to redo all from the whale to.
Let me jump in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll let David go.
There are two sections
Okay.
Yes.
of the 1100 East project.
Mhm.
One of them started roughly in the area of Beans and Brews,
Mhm.
Yeah.
just south of 27th South
Right.
on actually Highland Drive.
Mhm.
It's proceeding through the intersection of Ashton
Mhm.
right now. I believe they have one lane traffic northbound there.
They do, yeah.
And you can turn off of Ashton to access Fairmont Park. The other project on 11th East that Thurman's talked about, we actually started with a rebuild, some minor modifications to the McClellan Trail.
Right, okay, so there's two projects right in that area then. Go
Right.
ahead, yeah.
So in the
Mhm.
the McClellan Trail is substantially complete.
Mhm.
Some touch up, there's Jordan put it, landscaping, that sort of thing. But very soon, just about 90 feet south of the whale, will be proceeding southbound on 1100 East. And I can estimate that we'll probably be dropping barrels, construction barriers down,
Mhm.
probably within the month.
That's a
And-
great question, yeah.
And that's going southbound, the other one is coming northbound, and eventually the two projects will meet, but we separated them intentionally
Mhm.
so that we didn't have construction taking place in two areas at the same time.
Mhm.
So that was intentional.
Question about the timing of 1100
Mhm.
reconstruction
Which side?
between the whale and 17 South roughly.
Yes.
And when they had a meeting at Emerson Elementary, they indicated that by starting in the middle of May.
That's what we heard, yeah.
And then a couple weeks ago, I got an email said it would start on June 9th. That didn't happen. Could you explain the reasons for the delay?
There's a couple of reasons for the delay, with the contract bidding process. This year, it's been particularly tough to gen up contractors with our wet weather who can get out there and actually do concrete pavement and that sort of work in the wet weather. the bid proposals were a bit late getting to us. And we decided that it was easier to start the McClellan project and start it in front of the 11th East project. The other element that goes into the 11th East project is and it's probably not obvious, but that has a public utilities element to it. And the public utilities folks were not ready to roll at the time that we hoped they'd be ready. Right, and that's not one fingers at different elements, it's just the way the projects have been staged.
When do you expect to start?
We'll be dropping barrels within a month.
So by July 24th,
No,
This month,
this
June.
month, this month, yeah.
sometime in June.
Yeah.
Probably,
Yes.
probably
Just like a week.
next week and that
Mhm.
is my guess. And if you do want an update on that,
Mhm.
I'll have Christina be the asking agent. Could you bring up the, just to double check that I'm accurate with, can you bring up the 11th East project? It should be on my streets page. But we understand that we've been doing outreach and wanting to, you all have been very patient and prepared for some time. To clarify on the 11th East project, the first elements that we'll probably be doing there are the public utilities elements. So you're likely to see trenching. Probably, I don't think any of the trenching actually crosses 11th East. So I think we're imagining that we'll be able to keep one lane of traffic, at least one lane of traffic going, most likely. If I remember correctly, the utilities are on the west side of the street, so it'll probably be the eastbound or I'm sorry, it'll be the northbound traffic lane. Open. Let's see what else can I tell you. Alongside the public utilities elements, we'll probably start. We like to pair the hardscape elements, the curb gutter, sidewalk, drive approach elements that need repair along that corridor. So this is a big project. It's not only going curb to curb, but we're involving all the elements, just like we have on the 9th and 9th. So hopefully, public utilities is ready to roll with their improvements underground, and the concrete crews will be ready within the next week.
What's the name of the contract?
Good question.
Can I jump in here?
Off the top of it.
I have been remiss, David, because we did have the contractor here to not our last meeting, but the meeting before. And they changed once they gave the bid to somebody. And there is a team of folks that I have their contacts for, but I think because you weren't in town, I maybe haven't passed that on to you. So I will remember to make sure to get all that information switched over to you. But it makes me think of a question that David brings up. So you were both David Jones, by the way, so. the rest, right?
I've been
So-
directing calls to you all.
So is there a website that we can, or a weekly reminder of updates on 11th East, the same as there is on the 11th?
Indeed.
Is there
And I'll have Todd put that. Are you online?
Yeah.
So you can put that in
the chat? That'd be great. Yeah, because that is the one thing that I haven't signed up for yet either. So.
And that's the one from the side, right? Because we don't want to confuse that with the other one that's on the other side of the.
And the city has also hired a consultant, just like I am for 900 for 1100.
Okay.
So I'll make sure that they get your
I
contact.
think two separate. consultants.
Yes,
That's
two,
right.
one that's going south to north and one that's going north to south.
Right.
So I will get their contact info
Okay.
to you as well.
I've got one other. What's expected time for completion? They start sometime in June.
You know, I think growth projects, I think the harder project frankly will be the one from coming from the south going north. Because this year, 2100 South will have a sewer project right in the middle, popped right down in the middle. A public utilities project prop right down in the middle of our pavement project. That one, I think, is more likely to go into the winter. The one going from the Whale southbound, I think they're expecting that will only be this year. I don't think that's a 2-year project. I can check the 6-year plan, just so I'm not misleading.
And while he's checking that, I can run that back is the contractor.
Yeah.
For that,
Okay.
and
Yes, I will.
Jen, yeah, back construction, and then Jen Fowler
That's right, Jen.
with the Langdon Group is my counterpart on that.
Okay.
And Acme is the contractor on the one on the south side.
Okay.
Jordan, does the, so your, the nice self construction goes to the alley above east of Lincoln? Does that move up with the third side?
I think that's the plan. I will confirm that.
Yeah.
It does, so that's a great question, Amy, but I've spent a lot of time right there doing streetscaping
Yeah.
with the concerned citizens. Because that's, right in front of the plumbing supply and then
Yes.
contenders right there. So it looks like from the plans that Leah provided, the bike path comes down towards the west and then the alley goes right there. So there will be the cut-in that they paid for the angled cut-in parking will stay. So it will actually do a little,
Dive.
dido across the alley, come in closer to the businesses right there. And then, hook up with the rest of the bike path going to the west. So there is a little,
Where pedestrians and bikes would be on the same.
yes, just for a little
Shared use.
thing right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Is the whole path a shared use path? The whole trail?
It is technically, at least along the new corridor from, which is, we call it 9th to 9th, right? There's also sidewalks available, but that's not the case completely throughout because it is technically a shared use path.
And both sides do have detectable warnings making
Yes.
them complete multi-use paths. So, I mean, you will have folks who choose to travel on a wider path, let's say. But they are intended for everyone, both paths. There is a sidewalk path and there's intimidation around being in the same lane of the bicycle. You certainly are welcome to use the sidewalk. With separate signals.
They're not, they're separate buttons,
Right.
and the paths stay separate, but and the signals are separate. Yeah, yes.
It's separate signals. So
So,
And when we say signals, we mean like the
signal.
little
has,
flat, your flashing bicycle or your flashing walking person, or their
Signals are for when you cross the
for
street.
when you cross the street.
Mhm.
So there's a signal for each path.
It's just not gonna be a free for all on the trail.
Of course not.
well, so in the stretch that goes from 11th East up to 13th East, on the south side of the road, there is only one path. It's a multi-use path, and then they have directed folks to meander up the Gilmer Park shaded trail to come out higher up. So there are all the way down to the west. There are different areas like this where it kind of flows and merges. So, so something I think that we as ELPCO will want to make sure that we're paying attention to is what Jordan just said. Are there places, bottlenecks that look dangerous to us, you know, where we start to notice something that is looking like we need better signage or safety issues?
Or even road bars.
Yeah, wayfinding. So,
And to your point, and this is one of the things we talked about, when we talk about things like substantial completion. Okay, my computer's going slow, so we'll let that catch up. The overall project, from 700 to the east for this, the plan is to be done with substantial completion by the end of August to mid-September, and then be totally done the end of October.
Mhm.
And when I say totally done, that means they'll have finished all the landscaping, they'll put the wayfinding signs in, they'll put any other kind of signage, all those kind of last minute touches. So that's kind of the schedule right now. Now, I always like to add the caveat of, right, materials, labor, weather, all of those things can impact the schedule. And so signing up for those weekly email updates is really nice because we update that baseline schedule as we have more information. And I'll keep Christina in the loop as well when things like that are changing. But that's kind of the plan to be out of, this project should be out of everyone's hair by the end of October.
excellent.
So we're very excited about that piece. At least from 7 eastward. I did want to mention, I know I've taken more time than probably I should have. The overall construction schedule for 900 South, because they have broken it up into multiple area pieces. There's still work that's finishing up right now from state to second, and that roadway is open now, but they're still going to be doing a little bit of work. And then second to 500 is a major piece that they haven't started any work on yet. So even though that paving, yeah, just the paving work. So you'll see some roadway impacts there. So there is other work in other areas of 900 South that is continuing to, that will continue to go on. So I just wanted to mention that as well. Any other questions about the 900 South project that I can answer?
I have a point of clarification that I'm a little confused about. So have they decided, you know, confirmed that they are going to actually go from west to east straight through the intersection, or are they going to jump over the intersection and come back?
That's a great question.
Thank you. Just,
Depending on the day, the contractor changes their mind based
This
on
is what I'm
any new
gathering.
information.
Mhm.
Whenever they get new information, they've been doing some what they call potholing to like
Mhm.
see what utilities are in the way and what
Mhm.
things will impact them being able to work that. As they get new information, it changes. And when I know for sure, which will probably not be until right before they begin,
Mhm.
and towards the end of July, I will share it.
Okay.
But
So.
I
to be
think-
continued.
I think the plan is to go straight through
Okay.
right now.
Excellent.
Yes.
So on that note, you know, we can take this time to make our official announcement that East Liberty Park Community Organization decided, working with Bill Knowles and this team, that we were going to change our the site of our 9th and Ninth Street Festival for 1 year. Because our position is that we just want these guys to get in and get out as fast as they can. And we don't want to be in the way or something that they have to stop construction for in order for us to happen. So we will be at Liberty Park on September 16th for our 9th and Ninth Street Festival. Our website is live. So all the information that you need is there. There's going to be some pretty cool changes that we'll announce at the next meeting. So tell all your friends. Let's see.
I've got one other question about the construction.
Sure.
When the intersection was closed for 4 to 5 weeks, where are you? in the county?
So right now for east-west traffic, we're pushing them, the plan is to push them to 800. That's been the approved route for that. And then traffic coming from going west to east. 800 will be, again, kind of the route, but we'll have signs all the way at 7, letting them know if they can choose to go a different way, and then it'll be 11 on the other side is the preferred detour route. That's what will be put there.
That's going to be in the construction.
It hopefully won't be impacted. I mean, yes, it will be, but the where it'll intersect and where the detour will be pushing them one block to the north to 800. It shouldn't be impacting them because the construction is south of the ground instead of north.
I'm sorry, did you say 800 north, south, or just east, west?
800 south will be east, your east-west lane. Yeah.
And which is the north, south? That's 1100
1100
and 800.
yes,
Very different streets.
they are very different. Well, because if you can't get through, you have to cut on 800 east to go north to 800 south
Okay.
around the limits.
So you understand it's the diversion between 800 and 900 south that he's talking about. That,
Between 800 and 900 south.
so just
The
west of
north-
Smith's.
So north of the of 900, not south of that.
Right.
Yes,
Oh,
correct.
I'm sorry,
Correct,
that's.
yeah, that's
You're
it.
just fine.
All
No,
right,
you're
good.
No, it's a
the
good
main-
question.
Because
The
that
main
other,
deal-
that other part of 800 would not be a great piece.
Yes.
What it essentially is all roads lead to 8 south. Yeah.
Mhm. Which
We'll push everyone.
is
to
a
8 south.
whole nother issue, being that I live right between the two. Okay, so I do have one more point of interest from ELPCO in that in response to all of this, we decided to form a 9th and 9th committee to help us get through on the request of the city. Bill Mills in particular, who is the ombudsman from the city to the businesses and economic development. So myself and Marshall, who is out of town and apologizes for not being here, who is the East Liberty Park representative to ELPCO, and Amy Alba, who's in the room tonight, formed this committee on the request of some of the business owners, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So one of the things that we have committed to doing is more social media outreach during that time to make sure that people know we're open during construction, and so that our business district doesn't tank. We're also using this opportunity to ourselves be more ombudsman-like and try to get people more on the same page in that district and more collaborative and more collective action happening. In addition to making sure that we as East Liberty Park are messaging through our social media where potential parking is. And we've sort of decided that we're going to ask more people to park and walk, to enjoy the area between Liberty Park and the 9th and 9th area, and try to get people to use the trail more and really start engaging the process, even while it's under construction. And that will be our messaging. Does anybody have any questions about that? Good. Yay, we're kind of excited. It's been fun. It's been a good opportunity to try and get people on the same page, and Amy's been really helpful with that. So if we're good, then I'm going to move on and I'm going to give you guys the choice. I know David has to leave. Are you available to stay a little bit later tonight, Josh, or do you need to? We missed you on the. Can we let David talk, or do you? Okay, great. All right, so we're going to move on. Thank you, Jordan. That was very helpful.
Hopefully it was helpful.
I think it was helpful. I think, it was very informative. So David Jones is in the room with us, and he's already contributed a lot to this meeting, but David Jones is the SLC Public Way Coordinator. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Wears a lot of
I'm
hats.
I'm trying to figure out a good name.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah.
on my business.
Okay.
Because, I wear multiple hats, most of them center around communication. I've been around engineering most of my career. But I like to think of myself as an interpreter for our projects. And, I also like working with the communities. That's where, Christine and I have we believe in community, we believe that communication, even communication for action, timely with our communities are really where this all works. So that intersection is the gap that, I don't know.
Yay, so even though David has been a big part of this conversation, I can absolutely attest that he wears many hats. And if there's ever a problem, the city and the mayor's office will often refer people to David. So, but tonight we've had him here in a very controversial issue that's been coming up with many of our constituents. It's been the hottest topic on our beat since basically the stormy weather stopped, since the winter tore up the alleyways. So I'm just going to give you the floor and dive in.
Sure. So I would say that at my time in the city, which goes back almost 10 years, the topic of alleyways, when I first started working at the city, it's interesting, it was almost non-existent. And it's, I think we're seeing a couple of things that have been happening. One is the weather has degraded alleys. The wet weather, we're probably, what we're going to see is an unprecedented bloom. and noxious weeds and what's that? Mosquitoes.
Yeah.
All sorts of obnoxious things happening in alleys. If we go back in time, and I don't want to go back too far, but alleys were once areas of commerce. So where coal delivery took place, milk, commerce goods. I can remember my parents getting their groceries from an alley. To give you some statistics, we have approximately 100 miles of alleys citywide. Of that number, about 49 of those miles are what we would call the public alley. That is alleys that are owned and are thoroughfares designated by the city. The remaining balance of the other 51 miles are either private or unknown in their ownership. So let's talk about the private for a minute, because if you look at your Warren TV that describes your home, that was the piece of paper that you got when you closed for those of us who own homes. You probably have a description of your property, and it generally says parcel 1, and it talks about the needs and bounds of that parcel. What you're looking for, if you're living adjoining one of these private alleys, is a phrase that begins with together with, or along with, or including. And then you'll see in the description, you'll actually see the needs and bounds of the alley in some cases. Not just the portion, your half portion behind adjoining the property, but the entirety of the alley. And it's typically followed by the words for the purposes of ingress or even egress. And then you're also looking for the phrase non-exclusive, meaning you can't put up gates, you can't put up, I had a gentleman call me and asked if he could put a hot tub in the alley. And I said, well, that's a pretty exclusive use. So no.
In a private alley.
In a private alley.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, and people have asked on public alleys whether they can plant gardens. But those alleys were meant for the purposes of the ingress and egress, moving to and from the alley. An easy way to think about this is to think about these alleys as shared private driveways. And that more or less describes what a private alleyway consists of. Now, there are those alleys that we know very little about. And when I say know very little about, to date, we know very little about them. Each time I get a call about a private alley, we go into our database, we look at that alley, and we do some research with the adjoining properties. If one property shows ownership at that, for the purposes of ingress and egress, we usually designate that as a private alley.
Do all the properties along it or just
We,
that property?
we typically stop there. And the reason we stop is just we don't have the time to do the research for all properties up and down. I wish I could say that we're more thorough than that, but we typically aren't. And it's just a matter of time, because to look into each one of these line PDs takes a chunk of time. And we're doing our research at the county level. We're looking at county recorded documents. These aren't our documents. And I have constituents call me and they say, well, can you share this document with me? And I typically have to say no, because they're county documents. We can do our research records. We have a records person look at those items, but typically have to say no. So that's the story on private alley. That brings us to the present. And as I said, I probably over the last 5 years, we've seen an enormous amount of requests for alleys, and they range from ownership all the way through condition, crime, vegetation, encroachments. There was a big public alley, and without the city's knowledge, it's stunning to me. Public alley had a 2-car garage built with a welding shop, 220 power. It was amazing.
Which is surprising. I mean, I see you giggling, but this is something we see often in our area.
Yeah.
So go
Right,
ahead.
to get a building.
Do everybody get
No.
building? permits? What were you gonna say?
I just said, what happened?
Well, some residents along the alley said, well, if this alley isn't being used for the intended purposes of ingress and egress, then what you have is we have 2 approaches. One was we could have asked the folks, probably with some litigation, to remove the alley from the public way. Instead, what happened is that the folks in the community got together and said, this alley is never going to be used for the purposes of ingress and egress. They petitioned the council and they vacated the alley, meaning when we vacate something, the adjoining residents take their half of the alley and include it in their property.
Which, to my knowledge now, happens quite often. So,
And you know, to me, and to the previous city engineer, we were really working hard to try and bring to the attention of our constituents
Mhm.
that these alleys are important.
for egress. Mhm.
I mean, some folks have their garages in alleys. Some folks still do a fair amount of, dare I say, commerce. They move to and fro in their alleys. And for other folks who are planning for ADUs, accessory dwelling units, there's an increase, an uptick in the class. Look, I'm planning on putting my ADU at the back of my property, and the only access is an alley.
Can I just point out that part of our committee's issues that we have been having in ELPCO, especially in the 9th and 9th area, is that the businesses take up a lot of parking and sometimes encroach on the residents. And alleys are where the majority of parking happens for the residents. So this is why, just to emphasize why alleys have become so contentious in the last several months. So.
So 2 years ago, our previous city engineer said, David, we really have to sit down and start thinking about ours. And we have to, before we run headlong into, repaving alleys, we have to have a business model that makes sense. And the only way meaningfully to get that business model, to understand the economics of what it would take to pave 49 miles of alleys, is to do a series of pilot projects. So these pilot projects would essentially give us a test bed to look at a variety of techniques. And we visualize that alleys wouldn't be runways. We're not looking to make runways. We're not even looking to make residential roads. The traffic volume is fairly low, so we don't have to super engineer these thoroughfares. And so we're looking for economical techniques for establishing repaving and just repaving. In 2020, the council recognized that we wanted to do this. And they said, yeah, sign us up because our constituents are knocking on the door. They want to see alleys revitalized. And at the end of 2020, coming into 2021, we designated a series of pilot projects. We've completed the first 2 pilot projects. One is in the
Liberty Wells.
Liberty Wells. Thank you. One is in the Glendale.
Yep.
And we're engaging to begin a 3rd alley. It will actually be 3 alleys in one
In Ballpark,
involved.
which is an excellent alley to use as a pilot.
Right, and that just went out to sealed bid, and we expect to have word back when those contractors will be selected. But keep in mind, this is just a pilot. We have seed money only to do these pilot projects. This isn't a full-blown program yet. This isn't a call up David Jones. No, not that David Jones. This is to call up this David Jones and say, David, you can call me and ask if your alley is a subject pilot project. But we've pre-selected a lot of these alleys, and we have some very narrow criteria that we're looking.
They're not our alleys, in other words. It translates to not us.
But the information that we hope to glean from these pilot projects, which are continuing to be funded, by the way.
Mhm.
There was enough interest in the 2 that we've done that the council members sought fit to continue the funding to these seed projects. So we're moving forward. The second thing that's happening is this year, for the very first time, probably since 30, we're going to engage a field team to go out and walk all 49 miles of alleys and collect data on these buildings. It's never been done in recent history, to my knowledge. They're going to be looking for condition. They're going to be looking for things like encroachments, vegetation, and any welding risks that we might see, but we're looking to quantify.
Cell towers,
Yeah,
private cell towers.
what we want to be able to see, of course, is the state of our 40 hours. Included in that is, while we're looking at the public alley as the first round, we're hoping that the next phase of this can inform the private land. And while I brought a map with me, it's an ever-changing picture, as you can imagine. So this isn't live data. It isn't meant to be live because we don't have the confidence that all of the research that we've done. If I say something is public on here, and then we find a pot cut, let's say, we have to do something about it.
Yep.
So, the parting word here is there is no full alley program yet.
And there is no money for repairing the alleys. And the city has been incredibly forthright about this, working with David. They've developed a new script so that we can actually pass that on to our constituents. Rather than just saying, hey, we'll put you on a list, we'll be out there and check it out, and then have people get really frustrated. They have been helping us educate folks a little bit more what the issues are, which short of fixing the alleys, it's a lot better than just setting people up for frustration. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, the exception to that is where there are small potholes. And when I'm quantifying what a small pothole is, it's something about the size of a basketball that isn't deeper than 1 or 2. Something that can be filled with some asphalt, hot mix or cold mix. If it's the extent of the alley, that's really tough for our streets team to get out there and fix that. But we are, you know, if you call up 535-2345, that's 535-2345. You can get a very pleasant, one of my pleasant colleagues on the phone. They're willing to go out and look, but I would re-emphasize what
Christine.
was said. Yeah. That most of these alleys, if they're in poor condition, they're terrible. It's not potholes that we're looking at. We're looking at large stretches of alleys with big problems, and drainage being number one amongst them. Final word is that if you have some questions about alleys, if you want to find more about ownership, you can email me. You can enter it through city source by pulling down the streets, curb and gutter tab. You can call me directly. I'm on engineering's webpage. All of my contact information is there. And we'll do the research.
And all the links are on tonight's agenda too. So Alicia's putting that information into the tab, but all of your links that are.
That's right. So that's a lot of information condensed into a very short message, but you know, I want you to feel empowered to talk to the city about these things. And you know, the only way that this is going to become an actual program is if we have the funding and we have the knowledge and we have the community that holds this all together.
Exactly. And you know, so to David's point, you know, ELPCO has been engaging in some outreach. We did testify to the city council during the budget period. And because, you know, we know that there's no funding for alleys, but yet people really want their alleys fixed. So we found, and this is my point of view, my impression, that a lot of times our elected officials weren't super clear about what people were asking. There was a little bit of like they thought they wanted activated alleys, beautification of alleys, whereas we are very much talking about just basic usable right of ways. So we do have a meeting with the mayor's office tomorrow, which we're going to do a walkthrough of some alleys in ELPCO, which are all invited to attend if you want to, and get some ideas about maybe collaborative ways that the community can interact with the mayor's office and the budget and engineering to solve some problems for ourselves. And we also have a great team of the 8th East homies. You might be familiar with them through Facebook, but some of our old board members live there, and they have been doing a lot of research in the alleys in Windsor and 8th East. The Tower Theater swimming pool was of great concern. David Jones brought us to our attention, and we really have to thank the city and David and Bill Knowles for utilizing some spare asphalt to take care of that situation so that people aren't getting hurt right there between Joe's Jewelers and the Tower Theater. So thank you, David, for, yeah, so there's been a lot on alleys. Does anybody have any questions or anything else? I know that David's gonna try and leave.
I'm gonna leave it.
Yeah.
Can you stay with that? Okay.
Oh, she wants to see the map. Yeah,
Is it
Oh.
possible to leave?
do you want me to get it back to you? Or
Yes,
can,
if
yeah,
you
that
could.
would be cool,
And
yeah.
again, the data is as good as it is
Oh,
today.
sure.
So just to be clear, in other words, we're not going to photograph the map, but we're not going to publish the map because we don't want to give anybody the wrong idea that this is something that's set in stone.
The red was for purposes of explanation. You can see the red and the black. The red is the private or unknown. And you'll see in some areas that we have red and black overlap with each other. That's where they're about the data. So in black is public as far as. And if you find a hot tub there, please draw it on the map. before it gets back to me. And you know, I would add, if you know of encroachments, like if this is in your neighborhood, draw on this map. It's only as good as the data that we know right now. And this predates, we're hoping to do that alley survey this year.
Excellent.
So that's very exciting.
Mhm.
It's, I use the word unprecedented a lot, and we use unprecedented quite literally in this time. But this survey that we're going to do is an unprecedented. So very excited about it.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, David.
Absolutely.
Are you staying, Kai?
Any questions? Any more questions?
Anyone? Okay, let me look online. Judy, Jeff, anyone out there? Doesn't look like I have any questions on the Zoom.
David?
All right. So we're gonna move on. So that
Thank you so much for the time. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, David.
Mhm.
Are you leaving too?
I'm gonna sit down.
Okay, perfect.
Maybe I can have 50, 55 sleep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For having, I'm happy to come anytime.
Yes.
So we're gonna move on to Josh from the mayor's office. Josh, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, good to be here. I think I'm one of the last things on the agenda.
Yeah.
So this will be pretty short. I don't have too many things to share, but so the budget just passed by the city council is going to go into effect on July 1st. And the city council website has the details of the budget proposals and what was passed. You can see that there are some differences between what was proposed and what was passed by the council. There is also some programs that people have been interested in and been asking our office about, such as the funding that was set aside by the council, $500,000 for looking at sanctioned camping. That has been put into by the council into a holding account until it's determined how that funding will be used and what will be the criteria for any group or entity to use that fund for that purpose. So they will have to vote again to release that from the fund from the holding account. So there's been some concerns about if something just some sanctioned camp is going to pop up tomorrow. That's not really the case. It's still a big process but the emphasis also is that it's not going to take forever. It's really something that the council's emphasis on, and Andrew Dawson in our office, homeless engagement, our homeless policy director is working with them, as well as talking with service providers to determine the best way to handle that funding. So more information about that will be coming soon, and we'll make sure to share that with the community. And then the air quality incentives program was also funded for funding for residents to make improvements to electrify, either with lawnmowers or with e-bikes. And also for that process hasn't been determined yet. So I would expect in late summer, probably into the fall, to see when that funding is actually going to be available and application for that. Also our for 4th of July holiday, the Salt Lake City will not be having a fireworks show, as we haven't had for some years now, official fireworks show, but they'll be doing a drone show. Our public lands department putting on a drone show by a production company local here, and that's going to be on July 1st at Jordan Park. And that starts at night when it gets dark, around 10 p.m. And then there'll be some food trucks and live music for that, starting at 8. And then for the 24th, it'll be here at Liberty Park. So for July 4th, it won't be on the 4th, it'll be on the 1st, but it'll be on the day of July 24th here at Liberty. And then I don't know if we have the fire department out here today, but they had some signs. There's some signs from the fire department about the no fireworks zone. That's basically going to be the same restrictions as last year. And so we have some, I know that the fire department at the local fire station, they will have some signs. We have some also. So if you get any requests for yard signs, for
Oh,
that,
great.
you can let us know. And I think that's about all I have. Oh, the public lands is doing a survey on the playground. They received funding, the playground received funding from the parks fund from that passed last year. So surveys out live to make suggestions on what you'd like to see improved at the playground. So
That's great.
that's it.
So Josh, we will post the survey in our next newsletter and online. We have been invited to do a walkthrough with public lands on the Liberty Park ideas. So again, open to board members or anyone in the community if somebody wants to join me. I get lonely, so anybody can come and we can meet with them and do a walkthrough and get more information on that. And I'll keep you up to date on when that is. So
I'd be interested if you'll tell me when it is.
perfect. Okay. Thank you, Judy. So I sat through all of the budget meetings this year, and I was very impressed by the department delivery of the budget to the city council, because I've always wondered how they were able to keep all that information straight. But this new process, I wanted to commend the mayor's office on having the departments actually speak separately and break it down. That was incredible. So good work to you guys. Does anybody else have anything they want to add or add questions? Anybody online?
The only thing I'll add, I know you have to walk through tomorrow of the alley. I'm gonna give to a bit.
Oh, you won't. Okay.
To the alleyway walkthrough. I'm off tomorrow because I'm working on Saturday.
Yay.
So,
Okay. Yay.
The Seven Canyons Trust is doing an event at Three Creeks Confluence, and I will be there at a booth for the Love Your Block program. So
On Saturday. Okay.
So I'll be there, but I will be off tomorrow, so I won't be up. But I will be walkthrough at 10. Cosgrove from my office will be there.
Excellent.
Dave.
Actually, Kai will be there.
Oh,
Dave
okay.
is going to be off too. So,
Right.
but I heard rumor that maybe some Love Your Block folks will be
Yes,
there
they
to
will
help
be there
us
too.
and better understand
will.
more community driven things.
That's right.
So I really want to thank the board members here, because I know this stuff, if you've never heard of like Love Your Block or any of these kind of things, are really difficult to plug in. But if you have any questions about the specific details and the people who are coming together in these collaborations, don't hesitate to reach out to me personally, email or phone, and I'll fill you in. Does anybody else have any questions? I know we have some ELPCO business to do. We're running a little long, but I want to make sure that our visitors are able to leave if they want to. All right, well, thanks for coming. It's nice to see your face. I like having you here.
Yes, also, I'll just mention, so in our team, we had a liaison. We were down one liaison. We had someone leave from our team. And so we have a new liaison for District 2 and 3. So I usually have a conflict this night with the Fair Park Community Council that I also go to. So that's what I did tonight. I was there and then I came across to here. And so that's why sometimes I'm online. But going forward, because we have a new team member, I will be able to be here for like the entirety of the meeting, pretty much every other month. And then every other month, I might be late.
Great. Yay. And the new liaison is named Alicia. Alicia.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm Alicia, but I'm
She-
sure
she
spelled
is
the
that-
same way.
She's a liaison with the school district,
Oh,
so and
excellent.
now it works for us.
Excellent. Great. Okay. Well, thank you for coming.
David, you want to Alicia, Alicia, and the two
Be
days.
safe.
You know, when they had phone books, they were like 40.
Okay, well, I'm gonna move on to some quick business. We have some more of our board members online. We have Judy Short, who is our land use advisor. She's been with us since the very beginning. And Judy, I apologize for not saying something earlier. Jeff Larson, he is our East Emerson representative, and he joined through the partway through the meeting. So hi, Jeff, welcome. Jeff and I have been talking about our board. And we finally are on the verge of having a full board according to our current bylaws. This is the first time in the many years that I've been here. So thank you all for joining us, everybody whose effort, I mean, the effort has been incredible. I personally am very appreciative. And I think our constituents are very appreciative too, because we're doing a lot of work. Is that Jeff or Judy that's got stuff going on?
Do you wish you were granted sushi?
Oh, thank you, Jeff. Okay, so of course, we all know me because I talk a lot. I am the chair, Christina Robb. I previously represented the west and east area, that is the blocks between the 800 South and 900 South, between East High School, well, basically up to 13th East, down to really only 11th East, okay? And then we have another neighborhood that sort of takes over, and that's the 9th and 9th Business District. But that position we call the 9th and 9th Business Liaison. So traditionally, in the west and east position, I've actually covered the residents, and then, you know, we've hoped for to have somebody who is more liaisoning with the businesses. But we have a vacancy in the west of east area, and that's the only current spot right now. We have our new secretary, who is Jeanette Young. Jeanette does live in the East Liberty area. We have a treasurer, Ann Weaver, who lives in historic Gilmer Park. We have 6 neighborhood reps that include historic Gilmer. And that is Marnie Chandler, who is our official rep. Marnie also is the chair of the standing committee, which is our neighborhood boost grant selection committee. And she's done some great work there. Our West Emerson person has been the hardest person to bring to the board traditionally, is currently Alicia Cunningham Bryant. She is a very important member of our LUCE, which is our land use committee. Judy Short, who also lives in West Emerson area, serves as our land use advisor, also for our land, and she is instrumental. She is our, you know, everything we need to know. She helps us out, so she's really important. Our East Emerson representative is Jeff Larson. He also participates heavily in the LUCE. And Jeff has been around for a while, so I depend on him heavily for just guiding the ship, you know, trying to figure out what we should do and how we should go about doing it. Our East Liberty Park representative is Marshall Bailey, and he is also our sustainability coordinator for our LUCE. And Marshall is a water person, so that's why he often fills in. And Marshall has been working heavily on the Foothill Trails project. He's also been traveling, so we miss him. Like I said, our west of east position is vacant, and we have 2 at-large positions. David Jones recently joins us. He is the chair of our standard operations committee right now. Basically, we are trying to become legal by updating our articles and our bylaws. And his skills have been super handy. We are involved in redoing our bylaws, which when we get to a point, we'll ask folks to participate and form a more regular committee of people, because we want everyone to be able to weigh in on any changes to our bylaws. You want to say something about our articles real quick?
It was, yes, we had a little snafu with the clerk in the division of corporations, but I think we worked that out and then we filed. Christine actually signed 2 different ones. But I do think it's worked out. The official name is East Liberty Park Community Organization. No friends, no ELPCO, no friends. And I think that's the way we want it. At some future meeting, I think we might want to discuss if we want to have a DBA for ELPCO. And then I want to throw this out there. I think from a marketing point of view, maybe this is me, but I was confused about ELPCO in the first time. I didn't know what ELPCO was. It sounded like but I think a better way to market our community organization is called East Liberty Park. And maybe we need to be here for that. But that's sort of something to discuss in the future. It's basically how can we best describe our area without sending to Acme Corporation.
I actually have had people ask us if we were plumbing supplies, so so there's that. Okay, so we lost our oldest at-large position, Michael Alosi. He recently resigned just a few weeks ago because he has family commitments. He sends well wishes and he's going to be assisting with some things in the future, but he just ran out of time. So tonight I want to get a motion from the floor to nominate Alan Crittenden to the board to fill that empty at-large position. Alan has been with us for the last basically 6 months, every meeting, everything. We actually met at 9th and 9th transportation meeting. He served as a volunteer heading the flood mitigation committee for the Red Butte Creek. And I want to toot his little horn for a second, because that was an immense amount of work, working with the emergency response from the city and the county. And Alan went sort of above and beyond in that situation to make sure that we had coordinated information. So when people maybe got off step and it was clear, or when one of the controls wasn't working as it should have, Alan was on that, to the extent that our favorite Andy Larson, who writes for the Tribune, pointed out his diligence in protecting that area around where Red Butte Creek pops up there. So Alan, I haven't thanked you formally, but thank you for this. Can I get a motion?
I'd be glad to make the motion.
Oh, Judy's with a second. Thank you, Judy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have all of our board members present, but so we have a quorum. Welcome to our board, Alan. We really appreciate that. Currently, Alan is on our lease committee. He has volunteered to take on well, why don't you tell us what you're taking on real quick, and then do you have anything you want to say?
Well, I want to say thank you for including me. I'm new to the city, but very interested in learning about it and doing as much as I can for the neighborhood and the city. I've been working lately on the adaptive reuse initiative, which is at its very early stages, and I think after talking to the planner who's involved in that, Aidan Lilly, earlier this week, it'll be probably a few weeks yet before we have some actual language to look at. But I did try to try to plant a few ideas in his head in terms of concerns about historic houses suddenly turning into something strange in the middle of a residential neighborhood.
Excellent. Great. Thank you, Alan, and welcome to our board. Let's see. So then we have an opening on our board for the 9th and 9th business liaison. According to our bylaws, we actually recognize this as one of our standing neighborhood representatives. But it is the 9th and 9th business liaison. So we will probably have to clarify, who's really working with the residents in between 800 and 900 South, all the way between 700 East and 1300 East. I'm sort of worried at this point that maybe we haven't been representing them historically. So we will take note that this is an intention of the board to look at this. But for now, Amy was nominated. As I said earlier in the meeting, we had some issues with the 900 South reconstruction problem causing chaos in the business district. A lot of people getting very worried, and we were able to really be good ombudsmen. So we went to the actual businesses and asked them what to do. So Amy was nominated by the businesses. Actually, Missy Grice from Public Kitchen spoke to Amy about taking on this role, and then Amy reached out to me, and then there was consensus because Amy is actually very well known among the folks in that area. She also lives in the East Liberty Park area. So her, Marshall, and I have been meeting with both businesses as well as the ombudsman team from the city for economic development. So Amy, do you want to tell them a little bit about the last meeting and how it went really quick before we take like what you heard at the last meeting, just to give everybody an idea what that was like?
Planners and the construction.
Yeah,
I thought it was just very important. I think the businesses really appreciate learning and finding out the timing of things like we heard tonight, just being kept in the loop. And I was pleasantly surprised that I think you can see the value of the improvement and also the city's commitment to doing it. I thought like 4 to 6 weeks.
Amy, I'm trying to figure out where you sent me your answers to. Was it my SLC number or?
But while you're looking, I do think it's really important to think about all the stakeholders in the neighborhood, though, in the business plans, but I think is it meaningful too, you know, to think about where do the residents and the businesses go to they are together to do that. So anyone who's interested in the neighborhood hall and doing what it's making it is, of course, the best way to go. So yeah.
Great. So can I get a motion from our board, even though we have a requested nomination from the business district? We need another motion from the board and a second.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, so we have Marnie with the motion and we have Alicia with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Jeff? Can't tell if Jeff is there or not. All right, so congratulations. Oh, congratulations, Amy. Welcome. We are going to work as a group, now that we have a full group, to define our roles more clearly. I know that Jeanette has brought up that the secretarial role is sort of open for interpretation, but Jeanette is working very diligently on making our videos eligible or better so that we can upload them to the public and have sort of our history up there on our YouTube channel. So thank you, Jeanette. But I'm going to invite everyone at this time to remember this is a process. So you are already doing these roles before you were actually accepted onto this board. So your voice, describing what you've been doing is going to be really important as we define these positions, which we have never done before in ELPCO. And as we pass that on to our predecessors, this will be unprecedented to actually have these ideas defined. And it will make joining our board so much more pleasurable, I think, in general. We will cut down on the drama a lot. So thank you all for being so patient. I also want to have one more parting say is that, if for some reason a board position doesn't work out, if you need to leave or you need to, take a leave of absence or something happens, we can't hold that position for you. We have to feel it because we are a working board, which is really important to know. There is no employees here. We are all volunteers. So even more importantly, that you can always reapply or come back to us with a new idea on a position that maybe you might be better suited for, or you might enjoy more, whatever you can contribute to. We have no interest in excluding anybody from helping us. And while our board are voting members, people like Alan was part of the committee for several months before, and he never even assumed that a board position is going to come open. So we need to be very clear that anybody can also join a committee and start putting their best foot forward for ELPCO and exploring their interests without having a voting board position. And that is going to be the path to having a board position, whether we create a new position as a team or someone retires and we need to fill a position. Our bylaws specifically state that you must participate and at least come to 3 meetings before you're even anybody will even consider you for a position. So are there any questions about this, or does anybody have anything to add?
This is granular question, please. This is very granular, but to your point, Christina, do we have term limits currently, or is that part of what we're going to look at with the bylaw review?
We have bylaws, very good
Yeah.
question. Like we have been following our bylaws.
Yeah.
And in case you haven't noticed, I am incredibly procedural and I follow my bylaws and I refer to the people who are really good at this, both David and Alan are very good at helping because of their careers, helping with these kind of procedures. I call them standard operating procedures, that include any legal issues that we might come up with or articles, bylaws, etc., just to make sure that, we're on the same page. So, to your question, I have emailed this out to everyone several times. So you're all welcome to see this. After the meeting, I'll email out our bylaws again. There are some inconsistencies now with our bylaws because we've changed our articles. So our bylaws are not necessarily 100% right now. But as far as term limits go, I need to be clear that these new positions that people are filling will be up for re-election at our yearly meeting again, right? So the people who entered a term where they weren't elected officially by our membership, which, we really need to get a membership. We need to get people, right? But I mean, to be fair to Tracy Aviary, like we don't really qualify for a larger room until we can get people here to our meeting. So, we really need to work on increasing our membership and getting people to come to our meetings. So, I mean, there is an issue now that we do hybrid and we do Facebook Live. It's really easy to watch our meetings at home or in the middle of the night without actually showing up. So these are things that we're going to have to be cognizant of. So I am going to make a motion that we, or ask for a motion that we cancel our July community council meeting and instead do a board retreat where we can get together as a board, share a meal, get to know each other, and potentially go over some of the concepts for direction that we are interested in creating for the East Liberty Park neighbors. Are people interested? Yeah.
Having like an hour and a half get together or all day?
I would say like enough for, a couple of hours for talking, like chatting about, come prepared, let's look at our bylaws, give some great feedback. And then I think that it's necessary that we share a meal and get to know each other. I mean, Jeff has been talking about this for a long time.
I think.
And, okay, so date to be determined, but the motion that we need to have is that we are voting to cancel our July membership meeting, which would be on the 27th. All in favor?
Hi. Just voted, I.
Okay, excellent. All right, so again, it's time to be creative. I'm going to adjourn this meeting, but we're gonna have to go off Facebook Live because we do need to talk about something super top secret, which has to do with celebrating somebody that we don't want them to know. So can we turn off the Facebook Live element and have the board stay online for now? That would be appreciative. I am officially adjourning the public meeting of the June 22nd, 2023 ELPCO community. Thank you, everyone. Board, please stay on. Okay, now if I can figure out how to turn off the